Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with the guru of living an interesting life, Dave Letterfly Knoderer. These days, Dave is a traveling artist and is a top producer of old-school pinstriping, hand-painted lettering, gold leaf inscriptions, and airbrushed imagery on motorcycles, hot rods, guitars, cake mixers, and even top-shelf motorhomes. Writing fills every available moment of his life. Dave is quick to point out that everyone's mixture of life's challenges is divinely choreographed to help us discover our true purpose. According to Dave, the smartest thing he ever did was run away and join the circus. He explains this and so much more. He's a great cat. Enjoy this interview.
Dave, thanks for taking a minute out. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
First and foremost, before we get into your life and what you do, I want to know, how did you survive COVID? How did you get through the last couple of years, and how has it changed the way that you do things now?
Well, I apparently was one of the fortunate people with COVID because because of my lifestyle and my clientele. I'm a motorcycle artist, and I have a route of Harley-Davidson stores. And if you'll recall, the COVID thing, they shut down all gatherings of 50 people or more. So that meant that events were being shut down right and left. And because I'm an artist and I go to Harley-Davidson stores, they couldn't have their regular event in the parking lot. They have a rock and roll band and burgers and beer and stuff. But they were very, very happy that I was available to come and put my pinstriping booth in their parking lot so they could advertise there was something going on at the store. I actually had a great year, and because I'm outdoors all the time, I have yet to catch COVID. I haven't caught it.
Wow.
I think it's because of my active lifestyle, plus I'm outdoors and I'm healthy. So I actually had a good year that year.
Good for you. Well, let's get into the nuts and bolts of what you do. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at a career day. One of them looks up and says, "What do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
Well, I'm an artist, and I do everything the old-fashioned way, and that is by hand with paint. Because when I started, it was before computers. So when we needed a design, I don't know how old you are, but back in the olden days when they needed a drawing, they what did they call it? They were called draftsmen. They'd take rulers and compasses out, and they would make a drawing with a pencil on a piece of paper. Nowadays, you use a computer to do all that stuff. But I started before the computer, and then I became a sign painter and an artist, and I learned how to do essentially all the things you do today on a computer, except by hand with paint. Mix the colors and make them gradiate from one to another, make thin lines and affect shadows and highlights and different things to enhance the image, all by hand. As the result of being an artist and developing the artist mindset.
So, it just sounds like on paper, as an artist and an illustrator and, the guru of living an interesting life, it seems like if you were in the third grade, this would have been a life that you would have envisioned.
Well, when I was in the third grade, my career path was already probably opening up to me because in the third grade, one day in class, the principal comes to our class, comes in and talks to my teacher, and then the teacher points me out, and then the principal gives me the signal to come with her, and I did not know what was going on. And out in the hallway, there were two other students from other classes, and we were taken to the gymnasium to paint scenery for a school play. Apparently, the people around me were noticing that I had a gift, and so it was probably inevitable. I would guess maybe that's the right word to say.
You bet. So, who were some artists that when you were younger and even now that really sway you and inspire you with your style?
With my style, when I was in like grade school, I used to get the Mad magazine, and that had the crazy caricatures and cartoon style that was kind of that I admired. And then there was the Rat Fink, the Hot Rod, the old surfer, decorations that those guys liked. And then even when I was a sign painter, I was not ever content just doing plain big mufflers, tune-ups and stuff like that. I always wanted the stuff that was more sensational. So I ended up going out and finding these jobs that were more sensational. Like in the summertime at the fairgrounds where the carnival was, those people wanted all kinds of entertaining things, decorative scroll work with clowns, with cotton candy, and even monsters and Frankensteins and science fiction robots, sexy girls, and all this kind of stuff. That's what they wanted painted on their equipment. And I found a great place to develop my talents in my 20s on the fairgrounds. And it seemed like each chapter where I was developing my skills led to the next echelon. And by the time I was almost 40, my main gig was putting airbrushed murals on the backs of motorhomes.
So talk to me a little bit about, the one thing that's key to us in our lives are people that inspire us. Who has been a role model or a hero for you in your life?
Oh, I've had a whole series of admirable role model mentors throughout my life, not only with horsemanship. Classic horsemanship has been a passion of mine for pretty much half of my life, and I was led to some very, very fascinating horsemanship greats throughout my life. And then with developing my artistic skills, there have been several outstanding craftsmen that excelled in a particular aspect of the sign trade that I admired. And because I've had an itinerant career lifestyle, I had the ability to seek these people out and learn from them. Some of them would include a man up in Michigan, Ken Soderbeck, who restored antique fire engines and put the old-time gold leaf scrolls and floral decor and miles of pinstriping on the old-fashioned firefighting apparatus. And then another one was the president of the Equine Artists Association, Werner Wrench, and then there have been countless others, pinstriping guys, airbrushing guys, custom paint guys, and the list goes on and on and on. And I'm constantly in search of I'm a lifelong learner. So there's always going to be somebody else I'm going to seek out to learn from.
So if you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now, who would you love to meet and talk to?
Who would I love to meet and talk to? That's a great question. It would probably be live or dead. It would probably be
either one.
Eric Sloan. Eric Sloan had a fascinating life that started similar to mine, and he became a renowned artist, especially noted for his clouds. He ended up becoming one of the most acclaimed cloud painter, and there's a lot of his artwork around Washington, D.C., and in some pretty impressive places. So it would probably be, Eric Sloan. He was an incredible artist.
Yeah. So every day we get up, we're motivated to get out of bed and to live our lives and do what we want to do. What's the main motivator for you? What do you want to do every day you wake up?
Well, I'm at the point now in my life, it's about being a blessing to other people. And so what gets me out of bed in the morning is I'm writing. I'm working on the next book, and I've got 4 of them in the works right now. One of them is just about ready to get published, and it's sort of a guidebook. It's kind of a way for me to share what it was that I ended up discovering as the result of going through this turbulent life that I've been living. That's got a set of, I guess, formulas maybe for living a happy life, being productive, having a positive attitude, and continuing to do things so that an interesting life unfolds.
So at the end of the day, how do you quantify a good day? When you lean back in the easy chair and look at the day, how do you say, man, that was a great day?
Oh, see, there again, that each day looks different, but typically, because I'm a heavy hitter and a busy guy that gets a lot done, I can, at the end of a lot of days, I'm going, my God, we sure did pack a lot into this day. And then there are other times where it's time to pause and get quiet, get some rest, and maybe meditate and be not quite so busy, and I guess that would be a regeneration phase, or even though my mind is percolating the whole time on because I got so many irons in the fire. So sometimes you just got to get quiet and allow the the energies to settle down a little bit.
For sure. So,
Yeah.
you know, as the guru of living an interesting life, you've been down a lot of trails, a lot of wisdom. Let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into your 20-year-old version of yourself, and you could give your young version a piece of advice based on what you've learned in your life, the wisdom that you've gained. What would you tell your young version?
I as a 20-year-old, I was intensely self-sufficient, and I was not open to the suggestions from the wisdom that was around me, because I was probably considered myself, quite an Einstein at that age. It might be part of that thing. So I think what the kind of advice that I would give myself would be to find a way to remain humble and open and receptive, because there's even more. We have access to even more as the result of becoming an observer of what it is that we are surrounded with, and it's much more than what we can create in our finite minds. So my advice would be, Yeah.
So of all of the people that you've touched with your artwork and your writing and the collective work that you put out there, what's been one of the best fan letters you've ever gotten?
I got an email last year from a kid. Well, he was a kid, and he ended up saying that his family was around the fairgrounds. They had some concession operations, and when he was 8 years old, he watched me decorating the carnival equipment, and he made the decision when he was 8 years old that that's what he was going to do when he grew up. And now he is a traveling sign painter, and his claim to fame is he put the paint job on the grave digger.
Wow. So, the one quote that keeps popping out in your bio is the smartest thing you ever did was run away and join the circus. But, all of these people in society and parents always say, whatever you do, don't join the circus. So talk to me about what that means for you to join the circus, run away and join the circus.
That's something that I actually did. My dad was actually very, very fond of all kinds of interesting things like steam locomotives and dirigibles and tall ships and even the circus. And a lot of these things that he dearly loved no longer exist anymore. And I was imprinted as a child with my dad's love for the circus. And I think that there was an attempt to get his attention by my becoming fascinated with the circus, or perhaps validate something that my dad loved, even though as a teenager, when he realized that that's what I was intended to go do, he was dead set against it. But he ended up coming around as the years went by, and he realized I was living an interesting life, and I was quite successful, and even and then by my late 20s, he ended up, after his retirement, he was able to go, hey, what the heck? I'm going to get a VW bus I can camp out in and go follow that kid around and have a blast myself. And we spent the summer together in show business. So it was kind of a tug of war at one time, but then it ended up becoming a medium for healing and connecting between my dad and myself. Now, I actually did join the circus at 16 years old, and the reason that I credit that as being a good thing to do is because of what it is that I learned that I was able to apply later in life when opportunities as a sign painter began to evaporate because of the computer. I had the mindset of a showman, and I was able to evolve into the next logical step. And then at one point, when I discovered a huge market for putting murals on the backsides of motorhomes with the airbrush, that clientele, since they are itinerant, they clump up in a different location every week somewhere in the country. Because of my background with the circus, I knew how to travel, and I put together a route of motorhome rallies and motorhome on-site project opportunities that just kept me on the road for a period of 9 solid years because of my background. And because of that, I became the most prolific of the motorhome mural artists in the country. And then that's what attracted the attention of the large RV dealership, where I became the resident artist here in Tampa, Florida, which ended up allowing me to have the ability to have a home of my own, which I enjoy today.
Everyone out there has a perception of you, an idea of who they think you are in all these different capacities, your family, your friends, your clients, but you're the one that's living your life. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Oh, it's kind of nice to be able to be reminded. I had 2 people in one day that told me that you are the most enthusiastic, optimistic, encouraging person that I know. And I think I get that blessing as the result of not only my upbringing, but especially the perception that I've accumulated as the result of this interesting lifestyle that I live. because it's not always all adventure and applause and gratitude and stuff. There are certainly challenges that occur along the way, and because of the ever-changing atmosphere that's taking place with this lifestyle, I've had to learn how to be flexible and especially quick to discard anything that that is going to interfere with my forward momentum. So that's another reason why I credit the interesting background with giving me a leg up on finding an interesting way to continue with a creative career. It just keeps getting better and better and better.
Oh, absolutely. Dave, if anyone out there wants to learn more about you, your books, your artwork, anything related to you, where's the best place for them to go?
The absolute best place is my website, which is easy to remember. It's called Letterfly.com. And that's LETTERF as in Frank, LY.com.
Beautiful. Hey, Dave, thank you for opening up. You have a fascinating story, a great heart. Thank you for giving me a little bit of your time to present to the world. I appreciate it.
Really, I enjoyed it too. That was fun. Let's do it again.
Cool. Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, music, and more from around the globe. If you want to hear more interviews, visit Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino on YouTube. You can visit us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.